Okay, now we have another figure here we're going to do. And it's just a lot of just practicing figures. So how do we practice figures? So I'm going to draw a line down the middle. And I'm going to draw a line across. And that's just going to help me get this figure kind of on the paper. So how big is the head? Okay, so if we measure this head, well, it's just touching the top of the paper, just off somewhere in here, right? The top of the head. So how much room does this head take up? Well, let's measure it. So we got 1, 2 1/4 heads, right? Got about 1, right? Look at that size of that charcoal. Yeah, that's pretty close. So this head is bigger than what I thought it was. Wow, almost comes down that line if I did 2 heads, including that bun. So if I do block this head in real lightly, so this head is somewhere in here, right, is my guess. Now it could be a little off. I could maybe bring it up a little higher, but I'm just going to go with this. I think this distance here is looking pretty good. Okay, so what's the first relationship do I want to go after? And we'll see. I'm thinking this shoulder here. So it's across relationships, right? If I draw this face, the eye goes here, the brow, right, thirds. So if I draw some of this face in, and the eye is somewhere in here, and I'm just generally trying to, okay. So sometimes that's easier to see. Where's that ear? Halfway, right? So this ear is across, yep, and the brow is somewhere in here. Okay, so that kind of gives me a general feeling of the head. Okay, so the shoulder is going to be across right about here, right? And it goes up just above this chin. So that should be the shoulder, the joint there. Okay, so where's the elbow? The elbow is just above this line here, and we really can't see it. It's behind that shirt. So it's somewhere there. Okay. So if I know the distance from the elbow right here, right? This distance from here to here, I should know the distance from here to there. So this helps a lot. So from the distance of the elbow to the shoulder, same distance from the wrist, okay, up out. It looks slightly shorter. So we're just going to make that. So the wrist is somewhere here. And generally you make these marks light because you always want to be able to move them or change them. So we're just trying to map this out, and it changes directions a little bit here. The tilt of the arm. Okay, so we're just kind of getting the feel of where that elbow is. Okay, how about that hip? Okay, where's this hip? Wow, it's like halfway in between these. And this hip, what relationships can we make? This hip starts right somewhere in here. So it just kind of helps me. Yeah, so if I look at that, somewhere in here. So the hip is somewhere in here, right? So this would be the hip, just above just below this line. Okay, knee. Knee's easy. Well, the hand is down here. How big is the hand? Big is the face. So if we just lightly lock this hand out, where is it? And it's tilted this way, and then the fingers, I'll make that wider. That seems a little narrow. And then fingers go down like this, right? So if I do the whole shape of that hand, it's kind of like that. And this other hand is behind it, which makes life easy, right? Oops. Thumb, right? In here. Wrist. And we really don't see this other arm. And it just goes straight up from here, right? Somewhere up to, well, it goes all the way up to the neck. Okay, so we know the knee is here. So if we know this distance, we know how far down the ankles can be. So this is where measuring helps compared to relationships. So the distance from here to here, right? From here to here, it's going to be the same distance from here to here. So I know this ankle is right here somewhere. So the ankle's right above the heel. Okay, the size of the foot, just to make sure, size of the foot is same size as the head. Woo! Look at that. Size of the foot, same size as the head. So this foot has to be down here, and then we have this. Wow, it's really bending her foot. My daughter's a foot doctor, and she always says ballerinas have the most problems with their feet. You can kind of tell why. You know, and I'm just going to put some detail into that foot. Right? Okay. So I want this contour line, and this just comes straight down almost. Right? Curves out a little. Just, oops. Down here. This other foot's right from this hand down there. Okay, where are these legs? Starts at the wrist here. I think that wrist should be taller. Wrist should be here, right? So that's just going to go that way, and this leg's just above it. Okay, back of the leg. How wide is this? How wide is that? Okay, find a relationship. Wow, it's as tall as the face. That's really wide, how wide that leg is. So that leg is as tall as the face right here. So from here to here. So I know how wide that leg is, and then it's just a matter of putting in that contour line. I want to make sure that knee is wide enough, because it's easy to get that knee too narrow. Relationship, probably from the chin to the eye. Chin to the eye. Yeah, that should be right. And then the back. Oh boy. Okay, so this back starts here, we know, and it's going to end up here. So we're just trying to put in that contour line, and you know that the back of the neck is going to be, you know, the neck attaches to right behind the ear, right back here. Well, I might have made that a little high. Let's move that down a little bit. There. Now that won't be so distracting. Okay, front of the neck. Well, she's got this really cool curve here. Right there. Did I get that right? Pretty close. And then she's got the shadow. So I can start drawing in some of this fabric. Right? Kind of comes across. And I can start drawing in some of this fabric here to get this curve. She's got this hip here, and I want to find that where that hip is. Top of that hip kind of curves this way, this curves up this way. So I'm just looking at the big shapes. You know, I could put this wall in. Where's this wall go? Somewhere here. You know, the ground. It gives her something to lean against. And that helps. So essentially I have the figure mapped out. Now I'm going to go back and double check. Okay, the width. I can't see how wide this arm is because this fabric's all in the way up here. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. Then it's just a matter of, well, can work on these fingers a little more. These fingers go down. Don't have that quite right. So I'm just making little changes, making adjustments. As I'm trying to develop these hands and fingers. And they look a little funky right now. We're just trying to feel them out. Get it? Fingers, feel them out. Okay. So we're just trying to get those to look a little more like a hand. And it's you just want to create the impression of a hand. Not a big deal. Okay? It's not, shouldn't be too hard. So you know, we have these proportions, double check, you know, the angle here. Yep, looks right. This is at a slight angle. Yep, I got that right. Okay. So sometimes it helps put these angular lines in here to get the curve, you know, where that leg's going to go. So then it's just a matter of putting in your values, your shadows, you know, where does this, you know, some of the background stuff, where's all that go? And, you know, you have the wall here. You remember your 1 point, 2 point perspective. Once it gets up to your eye level line, it starts flattening out, right? So that's the bricks, eye level lines, somewhere here. And then it starts curving up a little bit, doing the bricks. Yep. So it's just a matter of now just putting in detail, playing with some of the parts, you know, like this wrist. I don't like how that looks quite yet. And you're just adding little details now, tweaking the drawing, trying to get everything to work just right. Where's the curve of that head? It's like this, right? So we're just adding some of this. Where's the back of that? And then that ear has little shapes in here. Then we start adding some shadows. Start making that head look more three-dimensional. And it all starts working out a little better. So that's how to draw a figure, is making these measurements, making relationships. If this person was standing on the street and you wanted to draw this person, then you'd be going like this, going, okay, I have this angle here. I want to make the head about a certain size to make sure it gets on the paper. So if I measure this head like this, the distance, and then I measure down how much paper I have, you know, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads to the feet. So I know that has to be there. Another way to do that is to go divide the figure halfway. Where's the halfway point of the figure? Right about here, which is where a line is. And I know half the figure is going to be above this line, half the figure is going to be below that line. So if we divide the figure in half, that'll help you get a proportion too. Is I know half has to be above, half has to be below, or above, below. And that'll help me put the figure on the paper, even though I don't have all these reference lines, but I can do that by sighting. So I use my drawing tool to sight the angles, and I make relative measurements. So I still use the head to make a measurement, so the height of this head is, wow, it's almost from the shoulder to the elbow. Isn't that cool? And so I can start making these relative relationships, and I know this elbow is across from this hip, right? As I look at the person, I make those relationships by sighting with my drawing tool to see that. And so that's how you do it in real life, if you're drawing from life. A little bit harder, plus the model's going to be moving all the time. Here the model stays still, and it's just easier to have consistency in making these drawings. But now you just go in and start adding values. Remember, start out gently on the face. Don't get too dark too fast. Just tickle the paper and start building up these values slowly. Because if you go too fast, you can shoot yourself in the foot, and it's hard to make things lighter. So I'm going to just start out slowly by building these values up around on this face. Now this nose could stick out a little further. Maybe like that. So as you start adding values, you're going to see how you can tweak things a little bit. You're going to see different parts. That lip is, ew, boy. I didn't mean to do that. My bad. I got too big on that shadow. And this is an exact drawing tool. Sometimes using a charcoal pencil works better for doing all these fine little details, because this is really small. To really get a detail in it, it's easy to get too big with putting in your features. And then just build up. And it's all of a sudden going to look three-dimensional. But it's a matter of blocking these parts out, getting them in the right spot, and then developing the drawing. So if I get something in the wrong spot, like this hand still looks a little freaky here, I can always move it. I can always adjust it at this point. If I had put a lot of value into it and go, oh, I had the foot in the wrong place, it would be really hard to move it. Now's the time to make these adjustments to get it to be just so. Do I see that foot behind? No. And then she has these little strappy things on this foot. And then we have shadows, cast shadows, all those things that we want to work on. So have fun, enjoy doing this. It's kind of mechanical way of measuring out a figure, but that's how you do it. You look for the joints. Where are they going to be? Make those measurements. Try to get the same angle. Hold your pencil up. Try to get the same angle here on your paper. Make those measurements. Is that right? The shoulder could be a little more. And it will work. It'll look close. You're not going to be perfect starting out the first time. Remember these drawings? Learning to draw takes a lot of time. Learning to draw a figure is going to make you a lot better faster. Okay? And that's the goal, is to get you really good at drawing. And the best way to do that is to draw figures, faces, things like that. Because you're from childhood on, or from birth on, you're trained to know what a face looks like, what a figure looks like. If it doesn't look right, you see that right away. you know. And so it's the ultimate test of an artist to figure out how to draw. And you have to learn to draw, okay? The most important thing of an artist is learning to draw. If you can't draw, you're forever handicapped. I had a teacher who said drawing was the mother. Everything was born from the mother. Everything's born from learning to draw. If you can draw, you can do anything. So really take this serious and really practice this. It just takes a lot of practice. This is like learning to read, okay? If you just think, if you didn't learn to read in school, it would affect all the rest of your school. So you have to be able to do this to be able to do other things, you know. And once you figured this out, it becomes really easy to draw. And you just amaze people. They don't realize the measuring, the relationships, all those things that you're adding into a figure, but you know that, okay? It's like learning to read, you know, learning your vowels, you know, how they sound, things like that. If you can't do that in school, you're forever handicapped in school of not being able to read stuff or read well, you know? And so drawing is like reading in school. You have to figure out how to draw in order to be a good student, to be a good artist. And you can do this. I've never met, well, maybe I met one person that I couldn't teach to draw in all my years of teaching. But everybody can get this. Some people get it quicker. Some people take more time to develop these skills. But once they've got it, they've got it. You have it for life. You'll never forget how to draw all these relationships. So enjoy drawing. You know, have fun doing it. Practice this. You can do it.